The heart monitor ticked like a cheap metronome, too steady for a room that smelled like bleach and endings. Mount Sinai's winter light spilled across Oliver Grant's sheets, making his hospital wristband glow a flat white. Elise stood on one side of the bed, fingers around his papery hand. On the other side, Derek leaned in, just far enough for the nurses to think he cared. Closer, Oliver rasped. A dry whisper caught on a cough. Derek bent to his ear. Whatever their father said, he said it only to him. Derek nodded once, straightened, and slipped his phone back into his blazer like he'd just closed a deal. By morning, the lawyers were already waiting downstairs with coffee and glossy folders. The reading took 10 minutes. Derek Grant, sole control of the family holding company and assets valued at roughly $500 million. Elise Grant, personal effects listed on Schedule C. A small gray envelope slid across the table toward her. Inside, a scuffed old-school smartphone and a sticky note with her name in Oliver's slanted print. Derek didn't look at her. He was busy answering texts. "We'll circle back," he told the attorneys, the way people in Midtown say goodbye. At the funeral, the wind knifed down Fifth Avenue and sent the black coats flapping. People spoke about Oliver's brilliance, his eye for a turnaround, the scholarships he'd endowed. Derek sent an assistant in his place, due to urgent business. Elise stood between her mother, Helen, and Helen's new husband, Thomas, and tried to make sense of grief that felt hijacked. When it was her turn to place a white rose on the wood, the phone in her coat pocket felt heavier than the flower. Back in her apartment in the East Village, exposed brick, crooked floorboards, radiator that hissed like a cat. Elise set the relic on her desk. It was the kind of phone you tossed in a drawer when you upgraded. A black rectangle with a hairline crack like a river delta. She charged it. The screen woke with a stubborn hum and a lock code prompt. She tried birthdays, anniversaries, Knicks jersey numbers. Nothing. Her father's voice, "Remember, kiddo, simple is hard," bubbled up from somewhere warm. Elise turned the phone over, tracing the scuffs. Near the charging port, almost invisible, a tiny metal toggle sat flush with the case. She flicked it with a nail. The lock screen blinked, then dissolved into a plain home screen with one new icon, an antique brass key. Her pulse kicked. She tapped. A clean black interface opened with folders labeled by year: 2012, 2013, 2014. The 1996 folder sat at the top like it had been pinned there. Her birth year. She pressed it. A video filled the screen. Oliver, 10 years younger, hair thicker, eyes brighter, sat in some anonymous office. The city moved in a blur behind him. "Elise," he said, and the sound of her name in his voice knocked the air out of her. "If you're seeing this, I'm not where I can explain things. This phone is more than it looks. It holds what I couldn't say out loud and what I couldn't let die with me. Start with the money trail. Don't trust anyone until you understand what you're holding, not titles, not blood." He hesitated, jaw tight. "If you need a compass, call Marcus Foster. He knows the edges. But be careful. Edges cut." The video ended. No goodbye. No "I love you." Typical Oliver, feelings wrapped in instructions. A knock rattled her door. Then another, harder. Elise jumped, thumb hovering over the screen. "Elise," Thomas called, voice muffled but bossy. "Open up. We need to talk about practicalities." She slid the phone into her hoodie pocket and cracked the door. Thomas stood there in a suit that tried too hard. Behind him, Alex, his son, her stepbrother, scrolled on his own phone. bored. What practicalities? Elise asked. Thomas shouldered past her without waiting. Family ones. Derek has responsibilities now. Your mother is distraught. We need to consolidate loose ends. Which means, she said, shutting the door behind them. That old device, Thomas said, eyes landing where the phone had been. It's sentimental, yes, but Alex could use something to get him through this semester. We'll liquidate it properly, put the value to work. It's a phone, Thomas. It's not a bond. Everything has value, he said, smiling with only his teeth. Oliver would want the family to benefit. Alex glanced up. Is this about the grant fund? Derek said. Alex? Thomas snapped, a warning. Elise's skin prickled. Oliver's warning echoed. Not titles, not blood. She moved to the desk casually, scooped up a stack of mail, and palmed the empty charger cord. I'm keeping what Dad left me, she said, steady. You can leave. Thomas's smile thinned. You live under my roof when you're with your mother. You'll find I'm not asking. The radiator hissed. Outside, a siren wailed and faded. Inside, the silence tightened like a tie. Then I guess I won't be there, Elise said, surprising both of them and herself. Thomas stared at her like she'd mispronounced a word in his language. Think this through. I am, she said. You should, too. She held the door open. After a long beat, Thomas stepped out. Alex followed, shooting her a look that might have been sympathy, might have been curiosity. The door clicked shut. Elise leaned her forehead against it until her heartbeat slowed. She pulled the phone back out. The brass key app still glowed. She opened the next folder. A spreadsheet populated. Transactions, shell companies, wire notes that smelled like burnt sugar. Project Eclipse. Read one memo's subject line. Her father had left her a fuse. Her buzzer screamed again. Not a knock this time. A palm slamming the downstairs intercom, again and again. Elise froze. Phone in hand. Breath held. Open up! A voice barked through the static, rougher, angrier. It wasn't Thomas. The buzzer snarled again. Elise forced her voice steady. Who is it? Delivery for Grant, a man called. All New York gravel. She slid the chain, peered down the stairwell. A bike messenger in a rain-spotted parka held up a padded envelope and an iPad for signature. No one else in sight. She cracked the door, signed E. Grant, took the envelope, and dead-bolted fast. Return address, Jacobson and Vale, LLP, her father's lawyers. Inside, a single manila folder, a tiny metal USB shaped like a key, and a yellow post-it in Oliver's spike-lean scrawl. Call Marcus. Same hour you were born. Her birth hour, 3:17 a.m., felt like a secret handshake. Elise grabbed her own phone, Googled Marcus Foster Oliver Grant, scanned headlines, ex-cyber risk lead at Grant Capital, quiet departure, a university talk on data ethics. She tried a number from an old panel listing, voicemail. At 3:17 on the dot, her phone lit with an unknown caller. Elise? The voice was low, careful. Marcus? A sigh. You sound like him. Are you alone? Yes. Good. Don't power that old phone unless you're with me. People notice signals. Meet me at Remedy Diner on Houston in 20. Pay cash. Bring the device. And, Elise. What? If Thomas or Derek contacts you, ignore it. You can't out-argue greed. She stuffed the key USB and Oliver's relic into a canvas tote, shoved on a hoodie and beat-up white sneakers, scooped her emergency cash from a jar behind the flour in the pantry. She slipped down the back stairs, past the smell of onions and heat from the deli below, and out through the alley into a slice of night that tasted like rain and exhaust. Houston Street pulsed with cabs and the last trains rumbling underfoot. She jogged past the shuttered guitar shop, past a mural peeling like sunburn into Remedy's neon, where the pie case glowed like a promise. A waitress with a Bronx accent poured coffee without asking. Elise claimed a corner booth, eyes on the door, back to the wall like she'd seen in movies. Marcus arrived 5 minutes early. 40s, gray at the temples, peacoat, messenger bag. He did a quick sweep with his eyes, then sat opposite, hands visible. "Scout," he said softly. Elise blinked. "Only my dad called me that. He told me once you always had a map and a plan." Marcus slid a flat black pouch onto the table. "Faraday bag. Put the phone in. If it's beaconing, we don't want to be the lighthouse." Elise obeyed. He added the key USB, zipped the pouch, and exhaled like a medic sealing a wound. "You saw the word eclipse," he said, not asked. "In a memo. There are folders by year. A video from my dad. He said don't trust anyone. He said your name." Marcus looked pained. "I wish he hadn't. But here we are. What is it? Project Eclipse?" He stirred his coffee, buying a second. On the surface, metadata compliance tooling. In English, a black box surveillance stack, phone pings, financial flows, travel data, stitched together and sold as risk models. Legal if you squint, illicit if you follow where the money goes. And my father was stopping it? He was profiting from parts of it, Marcus said, not unkind. Then he saw how far it reached. Law enforcement, politicians, foreign accounts. He started documenting the rot. That phone is leverage and a target. The diner's door chimed. 2 men in off-the-rack suits scanned the room too slowly to be regulars. Elise's shoulders climbed. "Breathe," Marcus murmured, without looking. "Smile like I just told a bad joke," she tried. "Hilarious. Anyone besides me and your mother know you have the phone? Thomas tried to take it. He wants me to benefit the family. And Derek," she swallowed. "Derek got $500 million. He didn't even show at the funeral." Marcus's jaw worked. "Then assume your apartment isn't safe. We won't go back." He flipped his receipt and scribbled, "LIC, Crescent and 44th, warehouse door with red X. Call me. I keep a workspace in Long Island City. No names on the lease. We'll copy everything. Air-gapped. Then we decide who gets truth and how." The waitress topped them off, slid the check between plates. A napkin was tucked beneath it, edges damp with coffee. 3 block letters slashed in blue pen. Move. Marcus didn't touch it. "We're going out the kitchen," he said calmly, like he was suggesting dessert. "Don't run. Don't look at the suits." He stood, fished bills from his wallet, nodded thanks to the waitress. They slid past the counter, through a swinging door into stainless steel heat and the smell of onions and butter. A line cook lifted an eyebrow. Marcus flashed him a 2-finger salute like they were old friends. The back door yawned into an alley, wet with last night's drizzle. They stepped into the cold, and the alley filled with headlights at both ends. Marcus hissed, grabbed her wrist, pulled her behind a dumpster. Boots splashed. A voice, too smooth, carried over the hum of the city. "Elise, don't make this difficult." Derek. Of course it was Derek. He sounded amused. Marcus's hand tightened. "New plan," he whispered. "Roof." A metal fire escape clung to the brick like a spine. Marcus laced his fingers. Elise planted her sneaker and climbed, heartbeat in her throat, hands slick on iron. Below, the alley bloomed with more voices, More light. A car door slammed. Someone laughed. From above, the city glittered, indifferent. From below, Derek called again, sing-song. Come on, Scout. Let's talk family business. Elise hauled herself onto the first landing, lungs burning, and didn't look down. Come on, Scout, Derek sang from the alley. Family business. Elise hauled up the rusted ladder, palms burning. Marcus climbed beneath her, one hand on the rail, one on the Faraday pouch. Voices fanned out below, shoes scraping wet concrete. They swung over the first landing, then the next. A window unit dripped on Elise's hoodie. Cold water slid down her back. She bit a gasp. Marcus whispered, "Left. Roof hatch." He shouldered it open. Night air slapped their faces. Diesel, rain, city heat still bleeding off brick. Across Houston, sirens Dopplered away. They sprinted over tar paper and gravel, vaulted a low parapet, cut through laundry lines like dark flags. Somewhere a dog barked twice, then was swallowed by the city. At the far edge, Marcus stopped, scanned. There. A second building squatted a short jump away. He stepped onto the ledge. "You're kidding," Elise said. 3 feet. Don't look down." He jumped, landed sloppy, didn't fall, turned, palms up. "Your move, Scout." Elise set the pouch inside her hoodie, took 2 quick breaths, and leapt. Her sneakers slapped the opposite roof. Marcus caught her elbow, steadied her. She swore, laughed once, high, panicked. "Welcome to cardio," he said, already running. They zigzagged rooftops until a stairwell door yielded to Marcus's pocket tool. They clattered down 3 flights into a dim hallway that smelled like paint thinner and someone's bad decisions. A side door opened onto a street of shuttered bars and a lone taxi idling. Marcus flashed 2 fingers. The driver, a guy with a Mets cap and a paperback, looked up, clocked something in their faces, and unlocked the doors. "LIC," Marcus said. "Crescent and 44th. No midtown tunnels." "You got it," the driver said, pulling into the smear of late-night traffic. Elise watched the diner recede in the rear window until the neon was only a memory. Her hands finally started to shake. Marcus noticed, dug in his bag, passed her a little blue packet of diner salt. "What am I supposed to do with—" "Lick a corner," he said. "It helps. Old hacker trick. Sodium and breathing." She snorted, did it anyway, and found that focusing on something stupid helped keep her from spinning off. Queens rose up in sodium orange, warehouses and billboards, and the dark ribs of the bridge. 10 minutes later, they eased onto an industrial block where glass towers gave up and cinder block took over. Marcus paid cash. They slipped down a narrow alley to a metal roll-up with a red X spray-painted waist-high. Marcus tapped 3 times, waited, then hit a keypad hidden in a breaker box. The door ratcheted up a foot. They ducked. Inside felt like the opposite of everything Oliver had built. No marble, no view, just concrete floors, battered tables, a hot plate, a thrift store couch. But power thrummed. Metal racks held Pelican cases and neatly coiled cables. A lonely plant tried its best under a clamp lamp. "Not pretty," Marcus said, "but it doesn't ask questions." He set the Faraday pouch on a grounded mat, slid the old phone and the key USB out like they were explosives. He rolled over a cart with a squat, fanless PC the size of a pizza box. Air-gapped, never seen the internet, will copy, then read. They worked in silence, the room filling with the small sounds of keys and fans and New York humming beyond the walls. Marcus created 3 clones of the drive, printed labels with a handheld gun, Elise 1, Elise 2, Elise 3, then sealed 2 in tamper bags. Okay, he said, let's see your dad's ghost. The screen bloomed with folders labeled by year. Marcus opened 2018. Wire diagrams, legal memos, a PDF named Eclipse, accounts. He clicked. Columns of transactions rolled by. Shells in Delaware, Belize, Luxembourg. Her eyes snagged on familiar letters. Thomas L. Arden, Consulting, LLC. Monthly transfers, $125,000. Elise's mouth went dry. Thomas is on the payroll. Marcus scrolled. Not just him. Look. Among the entries, Derek O. Grant, advisory retainer, 6 figures, recurring. That liar, Elise whispered, heat rising like a fever. He's been eating off this thing. Marcus clicked the top corner. A note icon blinked. He opened it. Elise, if you're here, I waited too long to be brave. Eclipse started as model building. It became a weapon. Thomas sold me certainty. Derek sold me speed. Marcus tried to pull me back when I finally saw it. Trust him. Trust yourself more. There's a failsafe. If this file is accessed from an unknown device, a dead man package goes out. I hope it never does. The window flickered. A red banner slid across the top. Secondary access detected. Elise's head snapped up. What does that mean? Marcus was already moving. Someone else is reading this right now. From where? He keyed in a quick script. Coordinates popped up. Midtown, a bulbous address she knew too well. Jacobson and Vale, LLP. The firm? Elise said. Dad's lawyers. Marcus grabbed the tamper bags. They cloned something. Or someone in-house is feeding them. We're not staying. Before they could close the window, a new file appeared in the root, as if dropped by an invisible hand. Open me now. Marcus hesitated. Elise reached over and clicked. Her father filled the screen. Older, tired, eyes still sharp. Scout, he said, voice rough but steady. If you're seeing this, I misjudged how many friends I had. There's a number in my contacts under Jacaranda. Call from a payphone. Don't speak first. If the caller says map and plan, you can trust them for 1 hour. After that, trust no one. The video cut to black. A soft, unmistakable sound replaced it. The hydraulic rattle of a roll-up door. Not on the screen. In the warehouse. Marcus looked at her. We've got company. Elise slid the phone and the primary clone into the Faraday pouch, cinched it tight, and felt the old muscle memory her father had named click into place. Map. Plan. The door groaned higher. Boots scuffed concrete. A shadow broke the light under the metal. And then, through the gap, a voice Elise hadn't heard in years, warm and aching. Elise, it's Mom. Honey, please open up. Mom? Elise froze, one hand on the Faraday pouch, the other on the table edge. Through the gap under the roll-up, she saw loafers, a skirt hem, a trembling ankle. The voice came again, softer. Honey, they said you were here. Please. Marcus touched her arm. Assume she's not alone. He moved like a stagehand, killed the overheads, clicked on a dim task lamp, rolled their cart behind a column. From a drawer, he pulled a cheap inspection mirror on a telescoping wand and slid it under the door. He angled. 1, 2. The mirror caught another pair of legs in the spill of alley light. He inhaled through his teeth. Second pair. Men's boots. Derek? Elise whispered. Maybe. Or Thomas's muscle. Either way, not a hallmark moment. Elise stepped close to the seam of the door. Mom, who's with you? No one, Helen said too quickly. The ankle on the other side trembled again. A low male cough bled in from the alley. Elise swallowed. What did Dad call me when I wouldn't come down out of the maple in Vermont? A beat. Then, like a smile breaking through fog, Scout. Marcus frowned. Derek knows that. Go deeper. Elise pressed her forehead to cool metal. When I was 9, we tried to sprout a jacaranda in a mason jar because I love the purple trees in photos. They don't grow in New York. What did Dad do? A soft laugh. Real. Cracked. He printed a whole forest and taped them to your bedroom window so you'd wake up in spring. He called it your paper grove. Helen's voice dropped to a thread. They're outside. Boots scuffed. The door flexed an inch. Marcus's eyes met Elise's. He whispered without moving his lips. We don't open this door. Elise pressed her palm to the metal, a gesture her mother would recognize. I hear you, she said louder. I'm not safe. Neither are you. Step away from the door. Now. Honey, they said, step away. A long heartbeat. The ankle vanished. Marcus nodded. He pointed toward a shadowed utility room and back. They moved fast. Marcus yanked open a gray panel, killed the breaker that fed the roll-up, then zipped to a side exit concealed behind stacked chairs. He wedged the inspection mirror under the knob and taped a flashlight barrel down so it would clatter when the main door jerked. Noise buys seconds, he said. He grabbed 2 go bags from a shelf. Pelican clone, pouch, cash, burner phones, and slung one at Elise. Hoods up. They ghosted down a cinder block corridor that spit them into a parallel alley. The air outside tasted like rain and fryer oil. Far behind, metal shrieked as someone forced the roll-up off its rails. A flashlight tumbled, clanging a perfect distraction. Shouts. A door slammed. Elise's ribcage burned. They cut up to Crescent, slipped past a sleeping auto body shop, and into the fluorescent hum of a 24-hour bodega. The cat at the register watched them like a cop. Elise scanned the back wall until she saw it. A battered public phone bolted beside an ATM, survivor of 5 businesses and 3 landlords. She fished 4 quarters from the cash roll Marcus had shoved at her. Marcus caught her wrist. Don't speak first. She dialed the contact labeled Jacaranda from Oliver's phone pad onto a Post-it, then punched the digits slowly into the payphone. It rang twice. A low, calm voice answered. Map and plan. Elise exhaled for the first time in 20 minutes. She touched the receiver to her temple like a blessing and didn't speak. 3 blocks south, the voice said. Astoria, BLVD and 31st. Link NYC kiosk. Press 911, then hang up. I'll call that kiosk back in 60 seconds. Cameras everywhere. Good for us now. Don't bring your mother. Go. The line clicked dead. Marcus stared. Clever. Piggyback the city's own callbacks. They hustled out. Night buses exhaled at corners. The NW rattled overhead. At the kiosk, Elise jabbed 911 and hung up before the operator finished. What's your... A minute later, the screen lit. The ring shrill in the cool air. She answered on speaker. Confirm, the voice said. Favorite breakfast with Oliver. Not his. Yours. Elise didn't hesitate. Sourdough with cherry jam he pretended to hate and ate anyway when Mom wasn't looking. Good. I'm Rhea Whitaker. I worked with your father at DOJ, once upon a life. You triggered his failsafe when a second device accessed the file. The package is live, goes wide at noon tomorrow unless someone inputs a kill code your father never wrote down. That's good and bad. Bad? Marcus said. Bad because a lot of people would prefer it never sees sunlight, and they now know it exists. Good because sunlight is a moat if you survive till then. Do you have the primary drive? Elise tightened her grip on the pouch. Yes. Hide it in plain sight. Not on you. Not with him. A beat. There's a storage unit at 1225 31st Drive. Code is your Paper Grove date, month, and day. Unit 204. You'll find instructions and a change of clothes. Go separate. I'll text a meeting point to the kiosk in 30 minutes. If I don't, assume I'm burned and get to Grand Central, Vanderbilt Hall, the big clock, by 10 a.m. Blend. Is my mother safe? Elise asked. You can't fix everyone tonight, Scout. The nickname landed like a hand to the shoulder. One fire at a time. The line went dead again. A city bus whooshed past, scattering a few damp leaves across the sidewalk. They moved. At the storage facility, caged fluorescents buzzed, the night clerk bored behind glass. Elise punched the date only her family knew into the keypad. Unit 204 rolled up to reveal a Rubbermaid bin, a Mets cap, a cheap windbreaker, a subway map folded crisp, and a post-it in Oliver's hand. No heroics. Be boring. Take turns. Marcus took the cap. Elise yanked on the windbreaker, shoved the pouch into the Rubbermaid, then nested it inside a cracked suitcase. She slid it behind paint cans and a busted lamp like it had been there a decade, then snapped a photo memory into her mind. Third ridge, left corner, under the lamp cord. They locked 204. In the hallway, a maintenance TV murmured the overnight news. A crawl mentioned unusual police activity in Long Island City. Elise didn't have to look at Marcus to know what they were both thinking. The circle was tightening. On the sidewalk again, they split. Marcus north to the Queensboro Plaza station, Elise east toward Steinway. Her phone vibrated once. At the next kiosk, a new message glowed. Vanderbilt Hall. 9:57 a.m. Blue scarf. If I'm not there, you leave. She looked up. On the far side of the street, headlights slowed. A black SUV idled, windows dark. For a breath, it felt like the whole borough held its air. Then her mother stepped from the shadows beside the SUV, hair loose, eyes wet, arms folded against the night. Even from across the street, Elise could read the shape of her mouth. Run. Elise didn't think. She moved. The SUV's rear door cracked, a man's silhouette unfolding from the dark. Across Steinway, her mother pressed both hands to her chest and shaped one word again. Run. Elise pivoted down the block, past a shuttered nail salon and a deli glowing like a fish tank. She slipped inside, letting the bell jingle, then cut through the narrow aisle to the back. The stockroom door was propped with a case of seltzer. She slid sideways, murmured, Sorry. Bathroom? To a teenager mopping. He nodded toward a steel door she didn't enter. Instead, she found the back exit, pushed into the alley, and felt night air slap her cheeks. On 34th Avenue, she merged with two nurses leaving a late shift, let their chatter be cover. When she risked a glance back, the SUV had turned the corner slow, hunting. Elise ducked beneath the elevated tracks, the N train screaming overhead, and found another Link NYC kiosk. She hit 911, hung up, and waited. 1 minute. 2. The kiosk rang. She answered on speaker, eyes on reflections in the screen. Status, Rhea said. They found me, Elise whispered. SUV. My mother was with them. She warned me. I went to the storage unit. Pouch is hidden. Good. Marcus? Headed north. We split. Don't try to reunite tonight. Stay moving. Get to Vanderbilt in the morning. If tails feel heavy, abort. No heroics. A siren bled from somewhere near Northern Boulevard. Rhea? My mom? Silence. Just breath. Then, you can't pull her out of their gravity right now. Survive first, Scout. The line died. Elise stood a second longer, then peeled herself from the glow and headed for the subway. She bought a hot coffee at a halal cart with cash, let the steam thaw her hands, and walked without rushing into 36th Ave Station. The MTA announcement chimed its board warning. "Stand clear of the closing doors, please," and the train swallowed her. She rode loops all night. Q to 34th. Harold SQ. Shuttle to Times SQ. 7 to Grand Central, then back again, a phantom tracing the veins of the city. She sat near mothers with sleeping toddlers, a violinist packing up, a man in a reflective vest dead asleep against the window. Every time the doors opened, her chest tightened. Every time they slid shut, she exhaled. Between stations, she replayed her father's handwriting on that post-it in Unit 204. "No heroics. Be boring. Take turns." At 3 a.m., she changed trains at Queensboro Plaza and spotted a familiar shape on the opposite platform. Dark suit, 2 stiff shoulders, a face she hoped belonged to 100 other men. She dropped her gaze and let a crowd of bar-close kids become her cloak. At 4:30, she surfaced on Lexington long enough to buy a blue scarf from a 24-hour gift shop, then vanished into the tunnels again. The city's belly kept her safe. Dawn bleached the sky as she climbed into Grand Central. Vanderbilt Hall felt like a cathedral for trains. Light poured through tall windows and pooled on marble. Commuters flowed around the famous clock like schools of fish. Elise shifted her scarf, took up a tourist's slow pace, and studied reflections in brass fixtures instead of faces. 9:54. She texted a single period from the burner to Marcus's one-time code and got back the agreed ping. He was alive. Good. 9:56. A woman in a navy coat and a blue scarf leaned on a pillar by the Apple Store, reading a map too intently. Another blue scarf appeared near the Lexington Passage. Young, headphones, pacing. Blue scarves everywhere, suddenly. Elise frowned. Had Rhea miscalculated or designed it that way? 9:57. A third scarf brushed past Elise, a brisk woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes that never quite landed. "Gorgeous clock, isn't it?" she said, voice low, like it belonged to the air more than to her. "I used to meet my daughter here after cello." Elise's pulse jumped. Her father's oldest trick, make the code sound like small talk. "What do you call the place you go in spring when the city still looks like February?" Elise asked, each word measured. The woman smiled with one corner of her mouth. "A paper grove." Then too fast. "We should get your drive out of storage." Wrong. Elise didn't flinch outwardly, but inside a pane of glass cracked. Rhea had told her to hide it in plain sight. Rhea wouldn't yank it today. She let her gaze float over the woman's shoulder, as if admiring a chandelier, and caught it. The focus of 2 men 50 feet off, pretending to check their phones, but orbiting the navy coat. The Rhea, with the wrong line, shifted her weight a hair, ready to steer Elise toward the Lexington Passage. Elise scratched her wrist, the signal Marcus had made her practice in case a meat was poisoned. Stall. Don't run. She stepped closer to the clock instead, as if meeting a friend, and felt for the cool brass lip. A busker's violin drifted down the marble. "Pretty," she said flatly, "but we don't leave the forest for a stranger." Navy coat didn't blink. "Oliver trusted me." "My father trusted chess over checkers," Elise said, stepping left, forcing Navy coat to realign. "And he knew you never grabbed the king. You pinned the knight." For a beat, the woman's mask slipped, annoyance, then calculation. She tipped her scarf, smiled politely, and flowed away into the crowd. The 2 men stopped pretending to scroll and followed. Elise stood under the clock until her breath slowed. Her palms were damp. Her heart drummed against her ribs. She felt a presence to her right and tensed. "Scout," a voice murmured, warm, unhurried. "Don't look. Walk with me. A real blue scarf fell into step beside her. Wool, ink dark, flecked with street salt. The woman wore no makeup, hair pulled back. An old courthouse badge clipped inside her tote so it flashed, then hid. Rhea? Elise whispered. Finally, the woman said, almost smiling. You passed the test I hate giving. Now keep your eyes on the ceiling and listen carefully. Your brother didn't just inherit money. He inherited a problem, and it's already following you. Elise swallowed and kept pace, gaze on the constellations painted overhead, trying to read fate in faux stars, while the real war moved under her feet. Your brother didn't just inherit money, Rhea said, matching Elise's stride beneath the constellations painted on Grand Central's ceiling. He inherited a problem, and that problem is already following you. Project Eclipse, Elise whispered. Rhea's blue scarf flicked as she nodded. Off-book surveillance sold as public safety, private contractors, slush flowing through shell tech pilots, and friendly packs. Your father tried to pull the plug after he saw what it really was: domestic spying with a profit margin. They drifted toward the Oyster Bar ramp with the commuter tide. Rhea never looked straight at Elise. She watched reflections in brass and glass. Quick quiz, Scout. Why was the fake me wrong? She asked for a drive and tried to move me fast. Elise said, You told me. Be boring. Take turns, and you never grab a king. You pin the knight. Rhea's mouth twitched. Oliver taught you well. She palmed Elise a gray pouch. Faraday bag. Phone lives in there, unless I say otherwise. They came up onto 42nd and slid into a yellow cab, like two women late for a meeting. Rhea gave an address on 10th Avenue. We're switching cars, then coffee. You look like you need pancakes and answers. Both, Elise said, feeling hunger and adrenaline fistfight in her stomach. The new car was an aging Prius tucked behind a warehouse. Rhea drove 3 blocks south, killed the engine beside a chrome and neon diner that had been awake since 1958. Inside, the waitress filled mugs before they sat. The smell of bacon and fried butter wrapped around Elise like a blanket. Rhea kept her voice low. Thomas isn't just a pushy stepdad. He consults for a security vendor that feeds Eclipse. Derek sits on a philanthropy board that launders grants into contracts. If they get Oliver's ledger, they can salt the trail and make you look like the thief. Elise stared at the steam rising from her coffee. My mom, Helen, was with them last night. She mouthed, Run. That tracks, Rhea said gently. They'll use anyone to pull you into daylight. Don't take it as betrayal or sainthood yet. Assume pressure. The waitress slid pancakes and eggs across the formica. Elise ate because not eating would make her shake more. So what did Dad actually give me? The phone can't be it. Right. The phone is the doorway. Rhea slid over a napkin and drew a quick map. A block, a key, a locker number. He stashed a physical ledger too. Names, wire routes, fake deliverables, even burner serials. It's scarier than the phone because it's hard to hack and easy to hold up in court. Elise pictured Unit 204, the moleskin she'd tucked into a tax prep folder. I hid it yesterday. Good, Rhea said. We won't touch it today. 2 independent sources are better than 1. Marcus will image the handset and generate a clean extract. Then we go to someone who won't sell it for clicks. A journalist? A few. The kind that prints when the proof sings, not when the ad sales do. She forked 1 pancake onto Elise's plate. Eat. Elise's burner buzzed once inside the Faraday bag, urgent enough to mime a tremor on the vinyl seat. She cracked the pouch, checked the screen. A single snowflake emoji from Marcus. Her throat dried. Compromised. Rhea had her hand out before Elise finished the word. Let me see. She flipped the phone, eyes scanning. Timestamp. 5 minutes ago. Queens. She tapped to the hidden compass app Marcus had installed. No GPS, just cell tower breadcrumbs. Ping came off a strip by the Astoria rail yard. That's either a panicked text before he ditched the phone, or somebody wants us to come running. Elise shut her eyes long enough to see her father in a hospital bed, whispering, "Be boring." He'll expect me to ignore the bait. He will, Rhea said. And I want to. But if Marcus is alive and held, waiting lets your enemies script Act 2. We need a third option, which is make them think we're playing fetch when we're moving the goalposts. Rhea scribbled a time on the napkin and a second location, Roosevelt Island tram. You retrieve nothing. I retrieve nothing. We stage a handoff. They can't resist, and use the crowd and cameras to force anyone sloppy into the open. Meanwhile, a friend of mine in Queens checks the rail yard without your face anywhere near it. Elise felt the tremor in her hands fade into a thinner, harder wire. I can do theater. That's why I picked Grand Central. You're good under a spotlight you didn't ask for. Rhea stood, tossed cash under the sugar caddy, and led the way toward the door. Keep your scarf up. Smile like you're talking wedding venues. They stepped into cold sun. Midtown traffic coughed and groaned. Across 10th Avenue, a white utility van idled with two men pretending they weren't watching. Their plates didn't match the state on the decal. Rhea didn't look. Kitchen exit, she murmured. They slipped back through swinging doors, past a cook flipping grilled cheese. The manager opened a service door with his hip when Rhea flashed that old courthouse badge. Health inspection. She lied smoothly. Grease trap looks good. They came out into an alley that smelled like coffee grounds and steam. Rhea jogged them to the corner, flagged a box truck like she'd ordered it, and the driver popped the passenger door without a word. You owe me Mets tickets, he grunted. In October, Rhea said, helping Elise climb up. Buckle. The truck threaded a maze of loading zones to the West Side Highway, then south. Elise kept her eyes on the Hudson, a gray sheet broken by ferries. The city looked ordinary and giant and indifferent, which somehow calmed her. Her burner rattled again. This time, a photo. Grainy. Marcus, duct tape at his wrists, a bruise flowering on his cheek. Behind him, a corrugated wall tagged in green bubble letters. Lana, a GPS pin overlaid like a sticker. The caption, bring the phone and the book. 3 p.m. Or we send a goodbye. Elise's stomach dropped through the floor of the truck. They have him. Rhea took the phone, studied the tag, then angled it so Elise could see. That graffiti's actually helpful. I know that wall. It's a dead corner by an abandoned warehouse. No cameras. They chose it because they think they're clever. What do we do? Elise whispered. Rhea looked at the time on the napkin, then back at the text. We make them choose, she said. We split their eyes. We put your brother's greed on stage and yank his friends off it. Elise nodded, felt the wire inside her go taut. And if they call our bluff? Rhea's answer came without hesitation. Then we stop being boring. The truck braked at a light. Outside the windshield, the Roosevelt Island tram hung like a red bead over the East River, gliding toward Manhattan on its cable. The clock on Elise's phone rolled to 2:11. Okay, she said, breath steady now. Let's hurt them with the truth. The driver gunned the engine, and somewhere in Queens, A camera lens adjusted. 2:52 p.m. Roosevelt Island Tram Station. The East River glittered like cut glass. Tourists queued with selfie sticks, and Elise stood in a knit beanie and oversized sunglasses, smiling the way bridesmaids smile through a dress rehearsal. Rhea sidled up without turning her head. "We're on Broadway now, Scout. Cameras, crowds, witnesses. Remember your lines." Elise adjusted the tote on her shoulder. Inside, a thrift store cookbook wrapped in tax envelopes, a dead iPhone shell weighted with washers, and a handwritten note on her father's letterhead that wasn't what her brother thought he wanted to read. The real handset sat sealed in the Faraday pouch under Rhea's coat. The ledger? Still sleeping in Unit 204. Her burner hummed. A grainy photo. Marcus, wrists taped, bruise spreading like ink. Caption: 3 Avarao. Phone plus book. Come alone. Rhea glanced, then angled her jaw toward the tram turnstiles. They won't come empty. Smile big. Make 'em think you're easy to pull off stage. A voice behind her. Lissy. Derek. Charcoal suit, cashmere overcoat, the bright, hurried smile men practiced in elevators. 2 men flanked him in private security bland. Elise didn't step toward him. She let him cross the distance. "You look fine," he said, voice soft enough for bystanders. "Let's be adults. Thomas can help you with probate. With whatever Dad left you. You hand me the phone and the notebook. We get Marcus back, and the rest of this quietly goes away." "Elise," she corrected, "and if Marcus is a bargaining chip, put him on live. Now." Derek's smile tightened. One of the men produced a phone. A video fed in. Marcus on a folding chair, duct tape at his wrists, a corrugated wall behind him, tagged in green bubble letters. Lana. A gloved hand lifted the screen closer to his face. "I'm okay," Marcus rasped, a ghost of a grin. "Kid, beat, bore." The feed cut. Tourists near the gate had already paused, sensing drama. A college kid angled his own camera. Somewhere above them, 2 NYPD officers pivoted their gaze like weather vanes. Elise pitched her voice for the crowd. "This is my brother. His security grabbed a man from our home and wants me to give them stolen property. You're being recorded, Derek?" Color rose in his cheeks. "Don't be theatrical." Rhea's murmur brushed Elise's ear. "Queen says the rail yard's hot. Black SUV, 2 spotters. Our guy has eyes on Marcus. We pull this thread now." Elise exhaled. "Okay," she said loudly. "You want a handoff? Here, in public." She lifted the tote just enough to whet appetite. One of Derek's men reached, but she kept it tucked. 3 conditions, she said, ticking them on her fingers. 1. You walk away from Mom. You stop cornering her with whatever you've been cornering her with. 2. You release Marcus now. 3. We do this in the open. Derek's smile evaporated. Conditions? You don't understand what you're holding. I do, she said. Better than you. It's not a parachute for your next board seat. Rhea's phone buzzed once in her palm. A single word flashed from Leo. Nest. Rhea didn't look at Elise. Queens just confirmed the tag on the wall. He's there. Fine, Derek snapped, jaw flexing. Give me the bag. Elise made sure to step into full view of the tram's glass wall. She held out the tote. You drop the act, I drop the bag. He yanked it. The weight surprised him. Good. He peeled it open and frowned at the spine of a stained paperback. The joy of home canning. What is this? He hissed. A recipe you've needed your whole life. How to keep things from rotting. Elise smiled for the cameras. Check the envelope. He pulled a tack sleeve and a folded page on Oliver's letterhead. Eyes skimming. Color draining. Derek. If you're reading this in a crowd, you had a choice, and picked the only one I feared for you. Speed over character. Thomas taught you the math of image. I hope to teach you the math of backbone. Return what isn't ours. Protect your sister. If you can't, step aside. Dad. For a second, his face was 12 again, hurt, cornered, furious. Then the mask came back down. Cute, he said. He tossed the cookbook to his man. We're done playing. Ria's whisper cut through. Move him off the X. Queens is rolling. Elise took a half step closer, eyes on her brother alone. Derek, listen. Dad didn't leave you $500 million so you could buy yourself out of a conscience. You think you know what he did? He shot back. Oliver built Eclipse. He wanted to bury his mess with a redemption arc. I'm the one cleaning it. No, Elise said quietly. You're the one writing yourself into someone else's apology. Somewhere across the river, a muffled shout cracked open in Ria's earbud, and Leo's voice came breathless. Got him. 2 down. Moving north by the chain link. 30 seconds to street. Ria squeezed Elise's elbow. Queens has Marcus. We just need to buy a minute. Elise lifted her phone, opened the camera, and spoke to the lens like it was a friend. If anything happens to Marcus Foster, I will publish every name, every wire, every invoice Oliver North. She stopped, corrected herself. Oliver Hart tracked, and I won't do it through a press release. I'll do it through 1,000 small accounts with screenshots your lawyers can't stuff back in the bottle. The effect was immediate. One of Derek's men cut a glance toward the tourists' phones. The other shifted his footing toward the exit. Derek reached out, grabbed Elise's wrist hard enough to send heat shooting up her arm. Enough, he whispered. You have no idea what we're up against. Ria stepped between them so smoothly it was almost a dance. Step back, sir. I'm talking to my sister. You're threatening a witness. It hung there, a coin spinning on edge. Then a tram bell clanged, doors slid open, and the crowd surged. Ria used the momentum, pivoting Elise into the car. Derek's men hesitated, unwilling to force their way onto a packed cabin under 50 phone cameras. The doors slid shut on his face. The tram lifted, the river falling away in a glittering sheet. Ria's phone pulsed, a selfie. Marcus in the back of a battered Subaru, duct tape hanging from one wrist, Leo's thumb in the corner of the frame like a seal of life. 3 words, bird is up. Elise let her head fall against the glass, breath leaving her in a laugh that was almost a sob. He's out. For the next 5 minutes, Ria said, scanning the platform shrinking behind them. Celebrate later. Elise nodded. Then we go get the ledger. Move it before they already know, said a voice from the opposite end of the tram. Thomas. He stood with one hand wrapped around a pole, tan overcoat immaculate, smile polite as a funeral usher. Helen wasn't with him. His eyes flicked to the Faraday pouch under Ria's coat, then back to Elise. Roosevelt Island, he said conversationally, as if giving a tour. Great views, terrible secrets. I do hope Unit 204 was insured. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Elise's boots. How do you— Please, Thomas said, almost hurt. Oliver taught me his filing habits. And you taught me your tells. The tram swayed over mid-river, the city glittering on both sides. Ria's hand found Elise's, squeezing once. Scout, she murmured, eyes never leaving Thomas's. Time to stop being boring. The tram swayed over the East River like a glass lantern. City glitter on both sides. Thomas braced a hand on the pole, the picture of polite menace. I admire the gumption, he said, voice low. Live streams, decoys, speeches. But the ledger in Unit 204? That's the only item anyone will bleed for. Rhea didn't blink. Funny thing about bleeding, cameras don't like it. Smile for the nice tourists. Elise's burner buzzed in her palm. Leo. Bird safe. Moving to 204 now. Code? She swallowed. Her father's voice surfaced. Sunday mornings over pancakes. When you forget numbers, hum the year. She typed 7476. Hum. America the Beautiful for latch. Behind painting. Don't touch the red binder. Thomas watched her thumbs. You can text fast, he said. Won't change the lock. I had the super pop 20 minutes ago. Rhea's shoulders tightened. Elise forced a shrug. Then you'll get 7 pounds of recipes and a note about character. You always did love Dad's letters. At the tram's far end, a teenager lifted his phone, whispering, That's the guy from the finance blog. Heads turned. Thomas's smile didn't move. The cabin intercom crackled. Folks, we'll be arriving Manhattan in about 2. Please don't lean on the doors. Rhea murmured, On my count, drift right with the crowd. Let the phones be our escort. Thomas leaned closer to Elise, breath mint cool. You keep choosing strangers over family. You think any of them will stand between you and a grand jury when Eclipse hits daylight? You mean when we put your name under it, Elise said. I don't think the word family means what you think it means. His eyes flattened. Cute. The tram kissed the station. Doors slid open. Bodies poured forward. Rhea pivoted Elise into the flow, a current of backpacks and winter coats carrying them to the exit. Thomas tried to press in. A chorus of "Hey!" and "Watch it!" rose around him as 3 separate cameras tracked his face. Street level smashed into them. Honking, steam, the parade of lunch rush on 2nd Avenue. Rhea cut hard through Bloomingdale's doors, past perfume counters, into an escalator canyon of chrome and light. Up 2, over 1, down 1, she said. Lose the tail in housewares. Elise's phone buzzed again. Leo. On 12. Hall is clear. Red binder is live. Alarm line. Going for frame. A text from an unknown number arrived on top of Leo's. Unknown. Ms. Hart, Unit 204 is under an illegal entry. Do not send anyone inside. Rhea glanced at the screen as they rode the escalator. Who's that? Elise shook her head. No idea. She typed back, Who are you? Unknown. Someone who wants Eclipse dead for the right reasons. Get out of Midtown. Your stepfather called in a favor with a deputy marshal. Rhea cursed under her breath. He's turning this federal. They slipped off the escalator, jogged through a sea of stand mixers, and plunged down a service stair toward Lexington. Behind them, a familiar tan overcoat flashed at the mezzanine railing. Thomas was still with them. Elise's phone buzzed twice. Leo. Frames off. Safe panel behind it. Numbers match your hum. Nice touch. Dialing now. Leo. Got it. Ledger's heavy. Real paper. Cover says Eclipse derives. Moving. A second later, Leo. Hold. Visitor. Rhea slowed just enough to read. Say again. Leo. Woman, mid-40s, navy blazer, badge I can't clock. Says she's with AG's Public Integrity. Knew the code. Knew my name. A third ding. Leo. She says Thomas will burn you to save himself. Says if we hand Ledger to her, she can keep you out of cuffs. Says your dad called her once. Rhea grabbed Elise's elbow. We're not doing handshakes in hallways. Tell him no. Get to the car. Elise typed, No deals in the open. Move to Plan Sparrow. Leo. Copy. Stairs. 2 tails coming up. Might need noise. They burst onto the sidewalk at 60th and Lex. Rhea flagged a yellow cab with a whistle that could cut glass. Queensboro Plaza, she told the driver. Then under her breath, "We snaked to Long Island City, change cars." The cab shot east. Thomas emerged 2 taxis back, phone to his ear, still maddeningly calm. Elise could almost read the words on his lips. Lock the bridges. Watch the tunnels. Her phone lit again. Unknown. They will box you on the bridge. Take First Ave south now. Rhea saw the text, met Elise's eyes, then leaned forward. Change of plan. First Avenue southbound, fast as your medallion can manage. The driver laughed. "Lady, I ain't dying, so you can beat a red." Rhea peeled 2 crisp hundreds from her pocket and laid them on the seat back. "You're not dying. You're practicing." They dove down first. Lights strobed green by grace or luck. Elise clutched the Faraday pouch, feeling the shape of her father's phone through the fabric like a heartbeat. "Thomas had the super open the unit," she said. "Maybe," Rhea said. "Maybe he wanted you to think he had it. People like him live on borrowed certainty." Elise looked out at the city blurring by. Dog walkers, deli awnings, a kid dragging a cello case. If Dad called that AG lawyer once, why didn't he trust her with the ledger? "Maybe he didn't trust anyone by the end," Rhea said softly. "Maybe he was giving you the choice he never got." The cab braked hard. A delivery truck had nosed into the lane. Rhea checked the mirror. A black SUV slid into view 2 cars back. Not Thomas's. This one rode lower, plates clean, windows darker. Elise's phone buzzed, a rapid-fire staccato. "Leo, car hit at the corner. Not me." "The agent says it's not hers either. We're in the stairwell between 11 and 10. Fire door wedged. Advise." And then another, unknown. "Leave 204. You are not the only ones hunting that book." The driver swore and jerked the wheel, squeezing past the truck, with inches to spare. The SUV behind them did the same. The city suddenly felt smaller. Rhea's voice went low and calm. "Okay, Scout, we pivot. The ledger goes to someone who can't be leaned on." "Priya?" Elise said. "You barely trust journalists." "I don't trust Priya," Rhea said. "I trust her deadline." Elise's phone chimed one last time before the light turned red. "Leo, stairwell light just clicked off. Someone killed the floor power. We're—" The message cut. 3 dots blinked, then vanished. "Leo," Elise said to the screen. No reply. The SUV behind them changed lanes and began to close. At the far end of the block, a siren howled, and a pair of unmarked sedans slid nose first into the intersection, lights flashing blue. "Rhea," Elise whispered. "I see them." Rhea reached for Elise's hand. "Breathe. We're not the ones who should be afraid." But when the cab stopped, and the blue lights flooded the windshield, Elise felt the old hospital quiet in her chest again, the place where goodbyes live and secrets break. She squeezed the pouch with the phone and stared at the officers stepping into the street. If Thomas couldn't take the ledger, he could still take the time. Blue light washed the cab's interior, turning Elise's Hands police cruiser gray. 2 unmarked sedans boxed them at the crosswalk. Doors opened in tense choreography. 2 men, short hair, windbreakers, badge wallets out. Rhea's voice dropped an octave. "Hands visible. Windows down 2 inches. Don't narrate. Record." Elise thumbed her phone. Live. Comments blipped up the screen. "Is that Midtown? What's happening?" She propped the camera below the window line. Viewers saw badges, not faces. The nearest agent leaned in. "Ms. Hart, Deputy U.S. Marshal Weston, you're a material witness in an ongoing fraud investigation. Step out of the vehicle." "Warrant?" Rhea asked, polite as a scalpel. "Material witness order," Weston said. Signed 10 minutes ago. Judge name? He blinked. That's not name, Rhea repeated. And hold your badge still. My counsel needs to read it. On the screen, hearts fluttered. A username Elise recognized, Priyachan, popped into chat. Keep him talking. Ask for docket number. Elise swallowed. Docket number? Ma'am, the second agent said. Step out. Her burner buzzed. Unknown. Marshall Weston is real. His partner is not. Private security. No arrest authority. Thomas is piggybacking. Do not surrender property. Elise showed the text to Rhea with a tilt of her wrist. Rhea smiled at the agent like a hostess declining dessert. Sir, you have my client's full cooperation once we see a signed order. Until then, this is an unlawful stop. Unlawful? Weston's jaw worked. You've got 5 seconds before... A delivery bike clipped the sedan's rear bumper and skidded out, metal shrieking. The street erupted, horns, curses, a coffee geyser. For a heartbeat, everyone looked that way. Go, Rhea breathed. The cabbie didn't wait for consensus. He punched the gas, nosed between bumper and crosswalk, and arrowed into the stream. The fake partner grabbed for a door handle and missed. Weston shouted, Plate! 100 phones caught all of it. They made it 3 blocks before traffic calcified. Rhea threw cash over the seat. We're on foot. They spilled onto the sidewalk, cut hard into a parking garage, and ran past rows of sleeping sedans. Rhea palmed a key fob from a magnet tucked under a column. A gray Civic chirped awake like a co-conspirator. Elise's phone lit. Leo, power cut on 11. Someone's using NVG, not NYPD. Agent with me says AG, name, Maya Esteban. She knew Dad. She says Thomas wired a bounty. Elise typed while Rhea backed the Civic toward the ramp. Ask her what Oliver told her. Ask for a detail only he'd share. Leo. She said he hated cilantro, called it soap leaf, and he only ate pancakes on Sundays if we burned the first one for the ghosts. Your call? E. Rhea glanced over. Gut check. Elise looked at the Faraday pouch on her lap, felt the rectangle of her father's phone thump like a second pulse. Don't give her the ledger. Not yet. Meet Point Templeton. Rhea nodded approval at the old code. Grand Central. Under the clock. Crowds are cover. And Priya's office is 2 blocks. They dropped out onto 49th. Zigzagged south. The Civic was invisible by design. Nobody noticed a decade-old sedan following the river of delivery vans. Midtown rolled past. Steam grates. Falafel carts. A street drummer banging joy out of plastic buckets. Elise's screen blinked. Leo. Copy. Stairwell to roof. 2 on me. Esteban says she'll slow them. Says Thomas hired a contractor named Grayline. Rhea's hands were steady on the wheel. Grayline doesn't care about badges. We move fast. At 42nd Street, they ditched the Civic in a garage and joined the tide into Grand Central. The constellations on the ceiling. The gold clock a glowing heart. Elise's chest loosened a notch at the sheer noise of humanity. Priya texted, East balcony, 2 minutes. I've got fiber and lawyers. Elise texted Leo, East balcony. Avoid Vanderbilt Ave. If blocked, plan Finch, whispering gallery. He sent back a single photo. The ledger, black and blunt, sitting on tar like a brick of history. Then a second shot. Boots at a roof door. The caption, 60 seconds. Rhea steered Elise up marble stairs. Priyachan stood near the balcony rail in a pea coat, hair in a messy bun, eyes bright with caffeine and danger. You're trending, she said, then dropped her voice. Do you have it? Leo does, Elise said. And he's bringing company. Priya's gaze flicked to the concourse. We can run a scan on the pages, push hashes to 3 outlets. If anyone tampers, we can prove it. Hard copies go in 3 lockers on 2 lines, Ria said. We don't bet our lives on your content calendar. A shadow stepped from behind a pillar. Derek. Elise froze. He looked wrecked. No suit, stubble, circles under his eyes. No gun. Just his hands lifted. Empty. You have a tail, he said. Not Weston. The other guys. We know, Ria said. Then hear the rest. Derek's voice was sandpaper. Thomas isn't protecting Eclipse. He's trying to sell it to the same people who paid Dad to build it. If you hand that ledger to anyone but the press, it vanishes. Priya bristled. I'm standing right here. I wasn't warning them about you, Derek said. I was warning you about your source. Your intern forwarded Thomas 2 of your emails. Priya swore. Of course she did. Elise felt the concourse tilt. Leo's almost here. As if cued, a figure appeared on the far stairwell. Hood up, moving with a hitch in one leg. Leo. He hugged the ledger to his chest, like an organ he couldn't live without. Behind him, 3 men in charcoal coats fanned out. No badges. One touched an earpiece. Another set his hand near his belt, under the jacket. Ria's eyes flicked, calculating. We split. 2 decoys. 1 package. No, Elise said, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. We stay in the open. We let the city watch. She climbed 2 steps onto the balcony rail and raised her phone. My name is Elise Hart, she said, loud enough for the echo. If anything happens to me or my friends, the Project Eclipse ledger goes public in... She checked the clock. Exactly 5 minutes. Priya's watch buzzed. Scheduled, she whispered. Fail-safes primed. Down on the marble, Greyline flinched at the attention. Heads turning, cell phones rising, a ripple like wind through wheat. The man with the earpiece lifted an empty palm, a signal to stand down. And the house lights dimmed. A power hiccup. The ceiling constellations blinked, then steadied. In that hiccup, one of the men moved. He wasn't headed for Elise. He was headed for Derek. Down, Ria barked, already shoving Elise behind the clock pedestal. Leo staggered, the ledger slipping. Priya lunged. Derek turned toward the incoming man, hands still up. Somewhere above them, a concourse speaker crackled, and a woman's voice, calm, edged, filled the terminal. Greyline operatives, she said. This is Assistant Attorney General Maya Esteban. Take one more step, and you'll meet federal obstruction charges on live video. The man didn't slow. Elise watched his shoulders align behind Derek's torso and realized the target wasn't the ledger or her. It was the brother who knew too much. The man in the charcoal coat lowered his shoulder like a running back, eyes locked on Derek. For a split second, Elise saw it the way the camera would. One figure cut from the crowd, intent and merciless. Her throat opened before her brain decided. Gun! The word ricocheted under the vaulted ceiling. Heads turned. Ria was already moving. 2 steps, hips square, hands like steel on the man's wrist. The pistol flashed into air. A tourist screamed. The weapon clattered across marble and spun under the clock pedestal where Elise was crouched. Derek flinched backward as the man slammed Ria into the banister. She absorbed it, pivoted, and dumped him hard. He hit stone, wind shocked out of him. Hands where I can see them, a voice boomed. Uniforms seemed to grow out of the floor. MTA officers, a K-9 team, then plainclothes racing up the stairs. At the far edge of the balcony, the other two gray-line men hesitated, measuring optics and odds. Down on the concourse, phones rose like a field of sunflowers. The calm woman's voice returned over the PA. "This is Assistant Attorney General Maya Esteban. Grand Central is now a federal scene. Lower your weapons, or you will be treated as an imminent threat." The decision rippled through the operatives' bodies. Retreat. One blended down the stairs, one slipped into the crowd like smoke. The one Rhea had pinned twitched. She tightened, expression flat. "Try it," she said. Elise slid the pistol toward an officer with the edge of her shoe, palms high. "We're live," she called, nodding at her phone. "Don't rough up, my friend. She just saved a life." Derek swallowed, still at half crouch, hands shaking. "He wasn't aiming for you," Elise said, too quietly for the microphones. "He was aiming for you." "I know," he whispered. "Secure the weapon," a sergeant barked. Two officers cuffed the downed man. A woman in a navy suit mounted the last steps with the ease of someone who'd climbed it in her head already. Dark hair twisted back, eyes that missed nothing. "Ms. Hart?" she asked. "Maya Esteban. I need you out of the open." "Ledger first," Rhea said, chin toward the concourse. Leo was halfway up, breathless, hoodie damp with sweat, the black ledger hugged under his arm. Priya broke from the rail, slipped under an officer's outstretched arm, and met him on the stairs. "Got you," she said, and together they carried the block of paper pane to the balcony like pallbearers at a wedding. "Eyes on," Priya told her videographer instinct. She laid the ledger on a cafe table beneath the clock. Rhea dragged the table 3 feet so every camera could see it. "No one touches it without gloves," she called. "Chain of custody is a thing." Maya glanced at Elise. "You trust me?" "I trust what happens when you betray me in front of 7,000 people," Elise said, tipping her phone to show the viewer count. "You can look. You don't get to keep." "Fair." Maya snapped on nitrile and peeled back the first page. Microtext, transfer routes, names printed neat as a confession. She inhaled once. "Okay, we need to move. Now." They were shepherded through a side door into the whispering gallery, then down a service corridor that smelled like stone and old steam. Rhea walked backward, eyes sweeping, while Priya hissed into her headset, "Up the hashes, all 3 outlets. If we lose me, you push." In a tucked conference room with frosted glass, Maya closed the door and posted 2 marshals outside. She turned to Derek. "You just had someone take a shot at you in a cathedral of phones. Are you done playing both sides?" Derek flinched. "I wasn't—" "Spare me," she said, not unkindly. "Tell your sister what you didn't tell her." He rubbed his jaw, eyes fixed on the scuffed table. "Dad built the first version," he said. "Not like this. A prototype. He thought it would help map trafficking networks. Then money showed up. So did advisors. Thomas came with them. Every time Dad tried to limit scope, they expanded it. When he wanted out, they made sure he couldn't." "By holding who over him?" Elise asked, dread already forming. Derek lifted his eyes. "Us." Silence thickened. The fluorescent hum felt too loud. "Thomas is trying to sell Eclipse 2.0, Derek continued. "He thinks if he delivers the ledger and the phone, he names his price and walks. If he can't deliver them, he delivers you." Maya folded her arms. "We press this to a grand jury. We can freeze assets, issue warrants. But if Eclipse is still live, the first thing those people do is nuke evidence remotely. What else is on that phone, Ms. Hart?" Elise pulled her father's relic from the Faraday pouch. It looked absurdly ordinary. Scuffed aluminum, a spidered corner. He said the phone was more than it looks. We found an encrypted vault. Marcus, Dad's old friend, helped break the surface, but there's a deeper layer we can't crack. Show me, Maya said. Elise toggled the hidden switch. The Ghost Icon app bloomed. She navigated. Years. 2018. Omega. A prompt slid onto the screen. 2-key confirm required. Below it, Harpsart voice prints. Elise's mouth went dry. Heart plus heart, she read aloud. My father, and which heart? Me? Derek? Try, Rhea said. Elise leaned in. Elise Hart. Open Omega. Nothing. The phone listened and waited like a patient animal. Derek cleared his throat. Derek Hart. Open Omega. The progress ring spun, stalled, returned to the prompt. Maya glanced between them. Who else legally a Hart? Elise felt the answer hit her like a winter door. Helen, she said. Our mother. She's with Thomas, Derek said. He won't let her out of his sight now. Priya tapped the face of her watch. Heads up. Our scheduled packet is prepped. 5 minutes to auto-publish the first tranche. 3 outlets. Mirror sites ready. If we're jammed, it still goes. Good, Maya said. We'll need the noise. I can move on Thomas with what I've seen, but the Omega Vault, if that's the architecture keys, we can prove who's been inside. We can shut Eclipse down. Elise gripped the phone, knuckles white. She pictured her mother at the kitchen island, pouring tea, eyes always somewhere else. She won't pick up if I call. He screens everything. Then we don't call, Rhea said. We pull her. How? Derek asked, a humorless laugh escaping him. Thomas has private security, blind elevators, cameras on cameras. We don't need his front door, Rhea said. We need his habits. Does he keep the same brunch, the same route, the same driver? Derek's face changed the way a file does when a password finally fits. Sundays, 10 a.m. St. Florian on 71st. Front pew, second column, always. He leaves the car running on Madison to show he can. Maya was already texting. I can give you 2 marshals and a van, off books. You give me the ledger images and a copy of the phone's outer vault. We'll all meet at St. Florian steps after Mass. If I'm late, you don't wait. Elise nodded. Deal. But one more thing. She turned the phone so they could all see the faint hairline crack across the corner glass. If anything happens to me, it's set to dump Omega to every contact in Dad's trust list. His lawyers, 3 editors, and, she glanced at Derek, Mom. Maya's eyes lifted. Smart. Elise didn't feel smart. She felt the weight of 100,000 watching breaths. She felt the way a city holds its air before thunder. She pictured her mother's face when she said Helen. She pictured Thomas's hand on her mother's elbow. The practiced proprietary touch. Priya's watch chirped. Tranche 1 is live in 60 seconds. Leo exhaled. No more shadows. Rhea cracked the door, checked the hall, then looked back at Elise. You ready to go get your mother? Elise slid the phone back into the pouch, tucked it close to her ribs. I'm ready to ask her to say our name. Outside, the terminal roared like an ocean. Inside the small room, the countdown on Priya's screen hit 0. The first hashes fired into the world, and somewhere across town, in a kitchen with stone counters and a view of the park, a phone on a charger lit up with a soft, insistent notification. Voice, key, request, Omega Vault, Harpsart required. Sunday broke sharp and blue. St. Florian's brownstone bell tower threw a long shadow over 71st, and a line of town cars idled like chess pieces along Madison. Elise stood at the curb with Rhea, Hood up, phone in a Faraday pouch pressed to her ribs. Derek hovered 2 steps back, as if indecision had mass. 10 o'clock, he said, glancing toward the church doors. He's never late. Positions, Rhea murmured. Priya rolled up with a beat-up stroller and sunglasses the size of saucers. A sleeping baby hit a button cam and a signal booster. 2 U.S. Marshals blended into the parish crowd in off-the-rack coats. Around the corner, Maya waited in a boxy van with no markings and too many antennas. A black SUV nosed to the curb. Thomas climbed out first. Tailored coat, small smile. He offered a hand to Helen. She stepped down with a grace that made Elise's chest ache. Pearl studs. The thin gold watch Oliver had given her, the Christmas Elise, was 8. Rhea touched Elise's elbow. We do this inside. Thomas won't make a scene in a sanctuary. The nave was all warm wood and old light. Incense hung in the air. Thomas steered Helen to the front pew, second column, like always. He didn't see Elise slip to the side aisle, light a votive, and kneel 3 rows behind them. Derek slid in on the far side, head bowed, an apparition in a navy coat. The mass droned in a soothing cadence. When the congregation stood for the sign of peace, Elise leaned forward, voice barely above breath. Mom. Helen turned. In her eyes a flicker, like a memory tripping. Elise? Thomas's hand tightened on Helen's forearm. He turned, polite annoyance forming, and then dying when he recognized the face. The smile fell away. Don't, Elise said softly, eyes on her mother. Dad hid something for us. I need your voice. Just yours. Thomas stood, lips parting to call for his security. Rhea was there before he inhaled. Stepping into the aisle, palms loose, a sculpture of Don't. The marshals appeared at the back like they'd always been parishioners. Mr. Keene, one said, using Thomas's legal name. Mind if we have a word outside? Thomas's eyes flicked. Marshals, Rhea, the priest. 10 phones angled wrong for him. He sat slowly, knuckles white on the hymnal. Elise eased the pouch open and angled the old phone so only Helen could see. The Ghost Key app was up, the prompt waiting. Say, Helen Hart, open Omega, Elise whispered. Helen's gaze slid to Thomas, then back to her daughter. He already has, Elise said. Dad built this to protect us from the men he let in. Please. For a second, Elise thought the past would win. Then Helen lifted her chin the way she did when she refused to cry at funerals. She leaned toward the phone. Helen Hart, open Omega. The progress ring spun, caught, pulsed green. Second voice required. Elise Hart, open Omega. The vault unfolded on screen. File trees bloomed. Root logs, certs, operator map, panic, kill switch. A bell tolled overhead, the sound washing the pews. Thomas rose again. Rhea stepped closer. I would sit, she advised. The marshals nodded in unison. The priest, poor man, said something about peace. Parishioners mumbled it to strangers. Priya rocked the stroller like an extra in a play. Derek stared at the little green check on the phone like a sunrise. Walk, Rhea whispered. They moved as if nothing mattered but the next hymn. 2 marshals flanked them at the side door, and in the small gravel courtyard, Maya met them at a trot. You got it? She asked. Elise showed her the screen. We're in. Van, now. They piled in. Rhea, Derek, Helen, Priya with the stroller. Leo wedged between boxes of gear, Elise and Maya up front. The van lurched into traffic. In the rear view, Thomas stumbled out of the church, phone to his ear. Face carved from granite. Seat belts, Maya said, eyes on mirrors. What do we have? Elise tapped operator map. Names punched through like nails. Contractors, shell companies, timestamps, IP blocks. She opened root logs. Session entries scrolled, including one tagged Keen Hub, primary node. That's your man, Maya said. That's probable cause on legs. Elise swallowed and tapped Kill Switch. A simple screen waited. Arm. Below it. Requires. Heart token plus. Location. Token plus. Final voice. What's the token? Rhea asked. Helen stared at the tiny gold watch on her wrist, hand shaking. Oliver said never take this off. She unbuckled, slid it free. On the back, between two screws, a dot of black glass like a birthmark. Leo took it with reverence. Micro NFC. He hit a hardware key in a Cartier. Your dad was extra. He tapped the watch to the phone. Heart token confirmed. Location token? Derek said. Elise scrolled. Valid sites. Hart House, Upstate, Oliver's Lab, Hudson Yards, Grand Central Archive, Locker 413. She barked a laugh. Of course. We just left Grand Central, Priya groaned. Hudson Yards is closer, Maya said, merging hard. I can get us to 34th and 12. On the phone, final voice required, blinked with a thin patience. Whose? Helen asked, though she already knew. Elise's thumb hovered. She tapped the info icon. A line of text popped. Operator of record, Oliver Hart. The van fell quiet, but for the rattle of city seams under the tires. He's gone, Derek said, a useless fact in a useful tone. Priya leaned forward. He knew that. He wouldn't design it to die with him. Elise opened Omega for when you're ready. A single file waited. Last key dot move. She tapped. Oliver filled the small screen. Tired eyes, mouth set. The gentleness she missed living in his voice. If you're here, he said, it means I failed to keep this off you. I'm sorry. Eclipse should never have left a whiteboard. Thomas made me believe I could control it. When I couldn't, I built a way to end it. It needs us. 2 hearts, and the places we loved. The last piece is me, because I won't let anyone else use your names to burn the world. He reached forward, like to cover the lens. You don't need my body, he said softly. You need my voice. I recorded 1 key. You'll have to decide if you use it. The screen cut to black. Then a waveform appeared. Press to play for final confirm. Maya took a breath. If we arm it, Eclipse goes dark. Certificates revoked, boxes bricked, money trails unmasked. The people behind it will panic. And come for us, Rhea added. Elise looked at her mother. Helen was clutching the empty imprint of her watch, eyes bright with something between fear and relief. Your father gave you the choice, she said. I won't let Thomas keep taking it. Outside, the van burst from the park shade into the hard light of Midtown. The Hudson Yards skyline rose like a dare. On the phone, the arm button glowed, waiting. Elise put her thumb over play. Dad, she whispered, dance us out. She pressed. The phone chimed. Final voice ready. Proceed at valid location. 2 minutes, Maya said, hitting the turn signal like a gavel. Everybody hold on. Behind them, 3 black SUVs swung off Madison and accelerated, low and hungry, closing the distance as the van dove toward 34th and the lab where a dead man's voice would decide if Project Eclipse lived or died. Maya blew a red, just as a black SUV fishtailed into the bus lane behind them. Horns detonated. The van bucked, then leapt down 34th toward the Hudson like a stone skipping. 2 tails, Rhea called, twisting to the rear windows. 3rd coming fast. Priya slid the fake baby to the floor and yanked a soft case open. Not guns, flares, a road triangle, a handheld jammer Leo had printed in gray plastic. On your mark, she said. Now, Maya snapped. Priya thumbed the jammer. The SUV's grills dove as their driver assist systems hiccuped. One clipped a cab, spun, and vanished in steam. The other two muscled through. 30 seconds, Maya hissed. Elise, eyes up. When the door opens, we run. The lab entrance was tucked behind a loading dock, a rectangle of matte glass with nothing but a pinhole camera and a brushed steel reader. Oliver had insisted on no names on the door. No one remembers the doors without names. They skidded to the curb. Rhea was out first, sweeping left. The Marshall's sedan screeched in behind, boxing the lane. Priya shoved the stroller at a doorman who had wandered out. Sorry, emergency, and bolted. Derek flanked Helen like a wall. Elise held the old phone and the Cartier watch. Her breath came fast and hot. She tapped locate token. The phone pinged and drew a sphere on the screen. 5 MN, 2 meh, 1 nem. Here, she said, and raised the watch to the steel. Location token confirmed. The glass side open. Inside, the corridor was cool and blank. Concrete floors and museum lights. Halfway down, a door blinked Heart Systems, Lab E, when the phone got within a foot. Elise's pulse kicked. Maya jammed the bar with her shoulder, and they spilled through into Oliver's other refuge, rows of workbenches, a wall of whiteboards dense with hand math, the soft hum of server racks behind smoked glass like a chapel organ. Plug in, Leo said. Elise set the phone on a ceramic pad with a gilded H baked into the glaze. Docked. All conditions met. The arm button brightened the way dawn does under heavy curtains. Rhea's voice floated from the hall. Company in 30. Make it 15. Elise looked at her mother. Helen's hand trembled as she touched Elise's cheek. He put the key in your hands. Don't look at me to bless it. Look at you. Elise stared at the screen. If we fire this, we light a match to a dry forest. She found Oliver's recorded gaze one more time in the tiny thumbnail, the gentleness and the steel braided together. She pressed arm. Final voice required. Press to play. She pressed. Oliver's voice, wrapped in the microscopic dust of this room, filled the lab. Operator Oliver Hart. Execute kill switch. Authorize sunset. A dialogue bloomed. You are ending Project Eclipse. This cannot be undone. Proceed? Yes, Elise whispered, and tapped Proceed. The screen turned black. Then a single white line began to crawl, revoking root, purging certificates, bricking field nodes, writing audit ledger. The percentage ticked. 6%, 11%, 19%. Boots thundered the hall. The door slammed open so hard the glass shook. Thomas filled the frame. 3 private security in a wedge behind him. His face was thunder. Step away from the bench. Rhea had a hand up before anyone else could breathe. Slow, she said. One of the guards swung a weapon up. Derek moved without thinking, planting himself between their muzzles and Elise. No, he said, voice raw. Not this time. Thomas's eyes cut to Helen. You brought her here. You think this saves you? Helen's grief had burned down to something diamond hard. You taught me to be afraid, she said. Oliver taught me to choose. 37%, Leo breathed. Thomas took a step, gun half raising. Turn it off. You can't, Elise said. Dad made sure. Sirens pealed outside, Dopplers climbing. The marshals burst in, guns fixed, voices trained to cut through chaos. Drop it, one barked. Keen, on your knees. The room froze into a tableau. The bench lit by a crawling progress bar, Elise's thumb still resting on ceramic. Oliver's equations like constellations behind her. Thomas's jaw clenched so hard it seemed it would chip. Derek's fists up without any idea what he'd do with them. Rhea steady as a clock. Thomas's weapon sagged first. He stared past everyone at the whiteboards, at a lifetime of someone else's thinking, and for the first time looked like a man out of moves. He knelt. The guards followed, metal clattering on polished floor. 59, Leo whispered, reverent as prayer. Thomas tried one last angle, words like needles. Elise, you have no idea what you've done. You've made enemies you can't see. Elise didn't look at him. She watched the line march. I grew up in your shadow, she said. I'm not afraid of the dark. At 83%, the lab lights flickered. Maya's phone lit up in a seizure of push alerts. Internal chatter dumps, money trails bursting into public ledgers, sealed memos unsticking from the bottom of bureaucratic drawers. Priya's stroller cam streamed to a pre-built press list. The ledger Oliver had signed with his last clean key wrote his name into a block no one could erase. Oliver Hart. Terminated operator. Audit release. 100, Leo said, voice breaking. The phone chimed once, soft. Eclipse. Sunset. Complete. Public ledger. Live. Operator map. Broadcast to regulators. Press. Independent mirrors. Sound came flooding back. Sirens. Radios. A man shouting down the hall. The ordinary city deciding whether to swallow this whole. Elise's legs went weak. Helen caught her. Rhea finally exhaled. The marshals lifted Thomas. He didn't fight. The fight had left when the room decided not to be his anymore. As they led him past, he looked at Elise like she was something he'd failed to value because he couldn't own it. Outside, the air felt wider. The Hudson glittered like a new sheet of aluminum. Camera trucks were already angling onto 11th, like sharks scenting blood. Maya put a hand on Elise's shoulder. We need counsel, and we need to choose what we say first. Truth, Elise said, all of it, on our timeline. Months don't montage as neatly as movies, but they did their best. Hearings, depositions, headlines that forgot her name and then learned to spell it. A court drew a dotted line from Keene's holding companies to Shell invoices to compromised contracts. People Elise had only seen as last names on Manhattan buildings took perp walks in Navy suits. An inspector general used Oliver's ledger as a syllabus. Derek testified. He didn't make himself a hero. I wanted the money, he said, plainly, into a microphone. I chose wrong until I didn't. The room believed him more for that. Helen sold the apartment she'd thought she could never leave. She rented a smaller place, with good light on a block, with trees that threw lace on the floor each afternoon. Sometimes, when she thought no one watched, she touched the spot on her wrist where the watch had rested, then smiled like the phantom weight comforted her. Elise kept the old phone in a shadow box in a small office on the 12th floor of a building with no names on the doors. Rhea ran point on security for the whistleblower project they spun into a foundation with Oliver's name on the letterhead and none of his ghosts in its code. Priya hired 2 producers and started a series that explained in human English how systems go wrong and how people can push them back. On a late Friday, Elise unlocked the box and set the phone on the desk. No passwords, no tricks. Just the hairline scratches and the weight of a thing that had asked her to be larger than she thought she could be. Maya leaned in the doorway with takeout. Big week, she said. Keene pled. You did it. We did it, Elise said. She lifted the phone and caught her reflection in the black. She didn't look like someone's orphaned kid anymore. She looked like the person who had decided to press proceed. On her screen, a calendar pinged. 9 a.m. Oliver Hart Scholarship Interviews. First cohort, kids who knew too well what it meant to live in shadows not of their making. Elise slid the phone back into the box and closed the lid. Outside, New York hummed. The same chaotic, indifferent song. But in her chest, it sounded different, like a melody she finally recognized. She texted her mother, "You free for dinner? Same place. Order the pie." Helen replied with a hearts-only string she would have once thought embarrassing. Elise grinned, grabbed her coat, and stepped into the hall, where her friends were arguing about dumplings and strategy and whether they could take a weekend off without the world ending. They took the elevator down together. When the doors opened, the city was there, unruly and impossible and exactly worth the trouble. Elise squared her shoulders and walked into it, not as a shadow in someone else's story, but as its author.